Cop threatened to arrest 2 veterans, until one made a call that changed everything. They just wanted breakfast to old friends. 2 black war veterans who had given their youth, their strength, and their lives to protect this country. But when a young cop stormed into the diner and accused them of faking their service, the whole room went silent. What happened next? No one, not even the officer, was ready for it. Stick around, hit that like button, and subscribe, because what this man pulled out of his coat changed everything. It was a quiet morning in Pinewood, a small southern town where the coffee is strong, and memories of the past hang in the air, like summer heat. Inside Maggie's diner, the booths were filled with locals, farmers, construction workers, teachers, and 2 older black men sitting quietly at the back corner table. They were dressed in military gear, not flashy, just neat and proud. One wore a camouflage jacket and a black cap that read, Vietnam Veteran. The other had a khaki uniform with a small, faded army patch on his sleeve. Their names were Sergeant Leon Hayes and Master Sergeant Curtis Mills. Best friends, war brothers, heroes. They had fought in wars most people only read about, had seen things they never spoke of, and had come home to a country that still saw their skin before their sacrifice. But they didn't complain. They just came to Maggie's diner every Thursday morning. Same booth, same black coffee, same short stack with scrambled eggs. That booth had become their ritual, their safe space. The waitstaff knew their orders by heart. Old Mr. Whitman, who always sat near the window, nodded at them every week out of quiet respect. They never asked for special treatment, just peace. Curtis, with his deep voice and warm laugh, was talking about his granddaughter's school recital. Leon, sharper than a tack even in his 70s, was teasing him about finally learning how to use a smartphone. It was a scene as American as it gets to veterans. 2 brothers in arms, enjoying the little things they had fought so hard to protect, until the bell above the diner door rang and Trouble walked in wearing a badge. Deputy Kyle Monroe was new in town, young, full of pride, and maybe too much power in his walk. He scanned the room, then locked eyes on the 2 black veterans. He walked straight over. "Can I help you with something, officer?" Leon asked politely. Kyle didn't respond to the question. Instead, he squinted at Curtis's uniform and muttered loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "Didn't know we were handing out medals to just anyone these days." The entire diner went quiet. Curtis raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? You 2 got IDs?" the deputy barked. "You can't just wear military uniforms and sit around like you're somebody." The waitress, Sally, froze mid. She had served Leon and Curtis for years. She knew who they were, everyone did, but she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "We served in the U.S. Army," Leon said calmly. "You might want to check your tone." But Deputy Monroe leaned in, voice rising. "Yeah, and I served at the county jail. Doesn't mean I pretend I'm some kind of war hero." People began whispering. Phones started recording. The disrespect was loud, raw, and burning. He looked around at the room like he owned it. "I've seen people pretend to be military just to get free meals," he said. "Just making sure you're not running a little scam here." Curtis clenched his fists. But Leon gently shook his head to keep his brother calm. "We paid for our meal," Leon said, sliding the receipt across the table. "And for your freedom, too." But Kyle wasn't finished. "I asked for IDs. If you don't have them, I'll have to escort you out." That's when Sally stepped in, her voice trembling with nerves and fury. "They don't need to prove anything to you. Those 2 men have been eating here longer than you've been wearing that badge." But Kyle ignored her, puffing up even more. His hand hovered near his holster, not out of danger, but out of control. The kind of intimidation that didn't belong in a peaceful diner on a quiet morning. Curtis leaned back, letting out a long breath, and his eyes didn't show anger. They showed disappointment. Leon, on the other hand, slowly reached into his coat pocket. The deputy stiffened, hands where I can see them. But Leon wasn't pulling a weapon. He pulled out a black leather badge holder. He flipped it open slowly. Everyone leaned in. Inside was a gleaming FBI badge, next to an ID card with the name, Leon Hayes, federal agent retired. The diner gasped. Kyle blinked. What is that supposed to mean?" "It means," Leon said coldly, "I trained federal officers like you before you even wore diapers. I served 2 tours in Vietnam. I worked 25 years in counterintelligence. And I don't take kindly to being spoken to like a criminal in my own country, let alone in a place I helped protect," Curtis added. "And I spent 30 years training combat medics. Saved lives on the field while people like you stayed home hiding behind county lines." The waitress dropped her coffee pot. The silence was deafening. Deputy Monroe backed up, pale. I didn't know." "You didn't ask," Leon interrupted. "You just assumed." He didn't raise his voice, but his words cut sharper than any shout. "You came in here with your chest puffed out, ready to humiliate 2 old men you didn't recognize. But we weren't trying to be recognized. We were trying to eat breakfast in peace." A man from another table said aloud, "Looks like you just embarrassed yourself, officer." Kyle glanced around, realizing every set of eyes was now watching him. One teenage boy held up his phone, still recording. "Say hi to TikTok," he said. Deputy Monroe's face flushed red with shame. The diner's silence turned into murmurs, then into outrage. "Leave them alone," shouted a man in the next booth. These men are heroes, another woman said, standing up. Shame on you, officer, someone else added. Sally the waitress stood between the deputy and the veterans. You can leave now, Deputy Monroe. Or would you like us to call your boss and explain what happened? Here, the deputy looked around, cornered by truth, surrounded by witnesses. He mumbled something and stormed out, eyes avoiding every face in the room. Curtis sipped his no-cold coffee. Didn't even get to eat my pancakes, he said dryly. The room burst into laughter and applause. Phones kept recording. Within hours, the video hit social media. The story went viral. Cop harasses black veterans, gets schooled by a retired FBI agent. Comments poured in. Thousands of people praised the veterans for their calm, their dignity, their strength. Even veterans from other states began sharing it, saying, "We know this feeling too well." A local news station ran the footage that night. The headline read, "Deputy disrespects Heroes Town, doesn't stay silent." The sheriff's office issued a formal statement saying Deputy Monroe would be placed on leave and undergo immediate retraining. People began showing up at Maggie's diner, not just for food, but to shake Leon and Curtis's hands. They didn't ask for fame, but now they were seen. A week later, a town meeting was held at City Hall. Leon and Curtis were invited as guests of honor. A young girl stood up to speak. "My grandpa served in Vietnam too," she said, voice trembling, "but no one ever honored him. Seeing you stand up today made me proud of who we are." Tears filled Leon's eyes. Curtis patted his back. Mayor Thompson handed them plaques engraved with gold lettering, "For courage in service and in silence." But the real reward, the look of respect in the eyes of their neighbors, the waitress's warm hug, the people who now stood up when they entered a room. Suddenly, their usual Thursday breakfast booth had fresh flowers on the table. Someone had placed a note that read, "Your bravery didn't go unnoticed." Local schools invited them to speak to students about their military service. Children listened wide-eyed as Curtis explained how he patched up wounded soldiers under fire. Leon told them about honor, duty, and how silence is sometimes the loudest voice in the room. A veterans support group was formed, named after them. They never set out to make a statement, but in standing tall with quiet dignity, they changed a town and reminded a nation what respect truly means. Months later, the town voted to rename a stretch of Main Street Hayes Mills Veterans Way. An unveiling ceremony was held. As the new sign was revealed, people clapped, whistled, and stood with hands over hearts. Curtis whispered to Leon, "We didn't ask for any of this." Leon smiled. "I know. That's what makes it real." And as the sun set on that small southern town, two old friends walked side by side just as they had on foreign soil decades before, carrying not weapons, but something heavier, dignity, pride, and the legacy of men who never had to raise their voices to be heard.